Welcome to Real Women's Stories with me, Lisa Quait. This episode, I'm going to be talking about food and healthy food and what that means.
It's such a brilliant question, and it's one that so many industries get wrong because we use the word healthy and it can mean so many different things.
So I'm going to be exploring and having a conversation with a very good friend of mine. He is a chef.
So I do the airline menus, and I do books, and then I do home shopping, and then I do other TV. But my one real passion is on that healthy eating and what that means to me.
This is Real Women's Stories. I'm going to be speaking to celebrity chef Daniel Green. Daniel is a really old friend of mine. He left the UK over 20 years ago and went on a journey, a weight kind of loss and a healthy eating journey. Daniel has written over 12 best-selling books, and he's also created menus for a number of airlines in America and Asia, and also hotels. And he appears regularly on a channel in the US with his cooking culinary utensils, Gotham Steel. I just really wanted to pick Daniel's brains because he's so good at what he does. He's got a sustainable life with his healthy eating and with his food. And his books are so interesting. They're easily accessible. I find, cookbooks quite overwhelming, but these ones are great. He uses simple source foods and helps you put them together really easily. I'm really looking forward to this interview. You guys are going to learn a lot. So let's dive in. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Good, Lisa. Nice to be with you. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. And listen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that you are always busy, either writing books, working on your TV channel, or indeed creating menus for airlines and for hotels. It's the start of a new year, right? So we really want to be addressing all the kind of healthy lifestyle and stuff that we're kind of trying, and I'm going to say in inverted commas, trying to kind of get our heads into. We've had Christmas, we've been overeating, drinking, and, I spoke to somebody last week and I'm on my own kind of detox journey of being sober and doing dry January. And I really kind of wanted to explore the healthy eating side of our life, society, and ask you some questions that I feel that sometimes that we as mums and women kind of get stuck with in our family life. So first of all, if you just would like to tell everyone kind of who you are, how we met, how we know each other, that would be really helpful. And then I can start asking you some questions.
Absolutely. Well, I've been living in the US 20 years. Last time we bumped into each other was probably about 5-6 years ago, I think. And I moved over here 20 years ago. I got kind of involved in my culinary journey. I lost 65 pounds years ago, going back to, my goodness, where would I have been? 20 something. So like 33 years ago. And I've seen a lot of differences on how, that's changed. In those days, it was fat-free. You could eat potatoes and pasta. You couldn't touch an avocado. Anyway, I got myself into this weight loss journey. Never thought I'd do anything with it professionally, but then ended up actually, I want to showcase, because I've done it for so long, how I can make food interesting. It's quite a long journey, but 13 cookbooks later, I moved to the US. I went into kind of the home shopping industry, quite big for 20 years, and infomercials and selling products like line of cookware. And along the way, have done a lot of different things that have taken me on that journey. From Food Network, I used to do things in England like BBC Good Food Live, UK Food, Saturday Kitchen, Discovery Health. So I did kind of all of that over there. And then I came over here and kind of kept on going in many different swim lanes. So I do the airline menus, and I do books, and then I do home shopping, and then I do other TV. So it's been interesting. It certainly isn't something I could have planned down there, but my one real passion is on that healthy eating and what that means today.
Yeah. And I think that, that for me, touched a nerve. And I do know you, and I know obviously your story. And I think it's something that women struggle with, especially. I know men do. but we continually battle with what should we be eating and understanding what does a healthy diet mean. So could you help me out a bit with what is healthy? What are these healthy options?
It's such a brilliant question, and it's one that so many industries get wrong because we use the word healthy and it can mean so many different things, especially when I get involved with, say, I do a hotel or an airline, and you sometimes see something like it's healthy. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Does it mean processed no food, processed food that's out, or does it just mean it's calorie counting? Is it fat counting? Very confusing, and there's so many different things that you've hit on that are so important. Setting yourself up to fail on doing things that you can't do long term. And when you started off talking to me about Christmas, the new resolution, I've seen that, and I'm always asked for things at that time of year. I don't like that because no one's going to be able to sustain it. It's about doing things that you can fit in your lifestyle and how long you can do it. So you don't have to go carb free, or it's about balancing on what fits in your lifestyle. But those small little things will make huge differences if you stay on them long term. And my favorite book was a paleo book I wrote, which was Monday to Friday. And it meant have the weekends off. And that doesn't mean go crazy on the weekends, but it means we're not committed to what you were saying about that January horrific diet that I remember years ago my wife did. It was like the grapefruit egg and a piece of toast or something. It's like, okay, so you did it for the week. Great. It's what we do on average. So my favorite out of every cycle I've seen fat free, and I've seen, from the Montagnac and all these different diets that eat vegetables one day, carbs the next, protein the next. The one thing that resonates with me is the two books I did on paleo.
Mhm.
The paleo is used in so many different angles because if you aren't having refined carbs, if you're not having sugar, if you're not having dairy, that's the one to be on because it kind of eliminates everything. It's just natural, fresh food.
Right.
So
Is
that's,
that
I think,
is sorry,
the
is
starting
that what paleo means? Because I mean, some people
point.
might
Paleo
not
actually,
understand what paleo.
yeah, paleo started, it's called the caveman diet when it came out about 12, 15 years ago into more mainstream. And it was anything that you could find in nature. It was, any kind of proteins. You could have anything that really is not high sugar vegetables, but you don't have any processed food. So it was just what's natural. And I think if we make it less complex than that, if you do take a paleo diet, if you do have no sugar, no added sugar, and if you want to take away the dairy and you don't have the high refined carbs like rice and flour, then what you've done is you have eliminated everything. Because if you are naturally on low carb, you're not having sugar because that's incredibly high. So I think the real focus in today's world is sugar. It doesn't do yourself any good. It's okay getting it from natural source like vegetables or fruits that are too high. But I think if you could follow a few simple rules there, as in an average, you'll get some brilliant results. Because I don't crave sugar. I really don't. And I know that not having sugar helps with that.
Could you give me an example of a meal that I could prep for my family? And everyone's got different kind of needs and requirements. Taking the paleo side of things, which is what you're saying is the best solution. How what could you give me an example of a meal that I could create?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, it's any kind of protein, whether that's salmon, which is actually very good because it's good in low saturated fats, but good fats like omega 3s, but it does fill you up. So protein fills you up. And there's a new research. I've got a doctor I work with on my latest book from Columbia, and he's published something that was a big study how, because obviously it's newer, the lower carb that we've been on for so long, that it actually does really help. It really does have an advantage on heart and so many other elements to health. But if you're having salmon and you're having poultry or you're having even lean beef, it's then that with vegetables. But now let's make it interesting. So add some spices and add some herbs. Think about different countries and where you can almost go on that meal, so it makes it a bit more exciting for the family. So if you're doing a Thai dish, you could have even some coconut milk or light coconut milk. That's paleo as well, and also it's dairy free. Put that in with some curry paste, and then throw loads of vegetables in, and you've got maybe seafood or chicken or even just vegetarian. You've just made it a bit more exciting, and I think what we always try and do is we buy the same thing from the grocery store every week and we then get a bit bored. So just try and add those elements of maybe it's Cajun style on the salmon, or maybe you're doing some roasted peppers and you're doing a salsa verde, which is like a olive oil with lots of herbs like basil and tarragon and mustard, and you just put that over your seafood, it's again a game changer. So little things, I always say, kind of a little bit aspirational but very achievable, and then you
Okay.
start to make food a bit more interesting without it being too much work.
Okay. And in terms of planning, would you suggest, because I'm quite a planner, would you suggest kind of having like a Monday, because we're talking Monday to Friday here, as you say, Saturday and Sunday we can kind of go off piste a little bit. So Monday to Friday, planning your meals, thinking, and I guess what would be good is you sit around a table with your family and just say, right, what kind of countries do you want to try? Because you do things like, as you say, like explore different countries throughout the world. So Monday could be Mexican, Tuesday could be Thai, Wednesday could be curry, Indian food.
It's brilliant. Actually, that was a concept I had, and we've still got it out there, which was 5 days, 5 ways, which is taking, say, salmon and broccoli and making it every day different. So you buy the bulk, you've got your salmon, you've got your broccoli, and then you've got your pantry. So you add curry paste and coconut milk, you've got Thai. The next time you add maybe some sesame oil and maybe a little bit of soy, and then you go on a Chinese journey with that. And that's exactly it. We just want to make things a little bit easier on ourselves. And it is easier to buy something in bulk more and then kind of adapt it. But I feel that the planning is what you need to do. Listen, it's not easy. If it was that easy, we'd all live the healthiest life, as lean as we could be. And it is like anything in life, it is a bit of hard work. And the hard work is maybe the planning, it's maybe the choices we make. But to be honest, there's very few places, and I am very, I'm incredibly, strong-willed in this. I always find an option. There's not a place I go to, except for fast food, that I don't have an option, and I can always find and tweak that.
So if somebody was on a budget, because also we need to think about cost of living, prices of food have gone up, especially in the UK, we're importing a lot of our food produce, and so therefore the VAT has gone up. What would you, in terms of vegetables and fruit, like can people buy tinned fruit? Is that healthy or is it
You
really
know,
bad for you?
when I met you in Thailand, is my favorite place to be in the world, that I've done so much work. And South America, Southeast Asia, that doesn't come into it. Everyone has access to fruit and vegetables. They just do. And we don't have that in Europe. We don't have that in the US. And it is a big element to that, of how you're so right. Cost effective in today's world, it's huge. I mean, everything has gone up astronomical. Our food bills are huge when we go to the supermarket. There are ways to do it. Now, again, when you say talking about families, you know, maybe you're not being so strict on the carbohydrates, but maybe you're doing an egg fried rice. Well, okay, so you got rice, you're not going to use a lot of oil, and then you're going to pad it out with lots of eggs, because that's a great way. Eggs is a brilliant protein. It's so inexpensive. There's so much you can do with it. There's lots of great ways. I mean, who doesn't love a poached egg? Or maybe it is a piece of salmon. So kind of pad out a bit more of the protein with eggs. I'm a big, fan of that on a cost budget. There's a lot of things like, beans and pulses out of a can, and there are things that you can definitely do. But I think also keep your eyes out on what's seasonal, because that still does come down in price a lot, and where you're buying from. The more you add fresh fruits and vegetables into your world, that's fantastic. But as I said, the proteins, just kind of know the good ones. Eggs is good. Salmon is the best. Obviously more cost prohibitive, but salmon is probably one of the best proteins out there, especially with fish, because it does fill you up and it has got some good fats. Then again, there's the farm raised, and there's, it being wild caught. But in my kind of thought, yes, there's stuff that goes into the feed. And if we want to be completely regimented, but it's still better to have some fresh salmon than other choices like deep fried or fast food. So don't be too hard on yourself. Try and do things that are next step, and take it a step at a time.
I love cooking with chicken thighs, and I know that they're really cost effective, because I used to use, because when I was prepping, it was always chicken breasts. And then I think I watched a cookery program, probably with Jamie Oliver, and he was like, he does these kind of cookery programs for
Who?
I don't know, it's like
Who?
yeah, Jamie
No.
Oliver.
I'm joking. That's brilliant though. No, it is. You're so right, and actually that gives so much flavor if you're doing stews and soups and you put in the chicken thigh. It really does.
So it's really thinking about kind of putting your plate together. And I guess it hasn't really changed much because I've always thought about it. It is protein, veg, and your carbs.
And
And it's
it's exactly that. And your carbs, the only thing in, what we really learned today is the carbs that are better and not. And really, the carbs are much better when you have root vegetables, your parsnips, your butternut squash, rather than going for the flour, and that also keeps it gluten free. So the things, if you're really looking to avoid, it is going to be the rice and the flour. It is going to be anything really deep fried, and you don't want processed food. It's just as natural as you can be.
yes, it is New Year and we want to make it sustainable. Why can't this be a nice family thing that we can all do together and have a bit of fun with it? Because then if one person doesn't want to do it one day, maybe the kids could cook and you can then take it in turns. So then the pressure's taken off, right? It's not always mum doing the cooking. Let the kids kind of get involved a bit or however old they are. And I know my husband loves cooking. He
And,
really enjoys it.
go back to what you said in a way. Whenever, as kids, having kids, being around kids, when they make those cakes and cookies, it doesn't matter how it tastes, they're very into it, right? Because they made it. So if you bring them into the kitchen a bit more, they'll have a different understanding. It takes a little bit longer for them to kind of sit down, appreciate it, and they've been a part of it. So if there's any way to bring the kids into that, I'm a big believer, because I always go back, things stick in your mind. I remember years ago, this French lady saying to me, you should take as long to eat the food as it did to cook it. And I thought, gosh, we so miss that. That's not what we do. And if you could try and bring those elements into the entertainment, try and make it. I remember in COVID, we were locked down thinking, what are we going to do for dinners? This is like the highlight of the day. And it was like, let's go around the world from home. And each day, we'll do like a different theme that I got my little daughter in, because it was boring. She was pulling her hair out. So it was so, kind of like the theme of the night. And I kind of missed, that was the event. And it should be a bit more.
What's your take on frozen fruit and veg?
Not
Because I was
terrible.
told,
Yeah.
okay,
No, go on. You were told.
no, I was told that it's got equally enough nutrients in frozen, and I tend to buy things like frozen blueberries, frozen fruit, and frozen vegetables now. I'm finding it cheaper. I love to put loads of veggies in my on my plate. I even got some frozen stir fry veg. I found it in Spain because when I was cooking in Spain, when I was staying, obviously I've got a place out there, and I was finding I wasn't sure on some of the vegetables. I was just buying frozen veg and cooking it, and some of the flavors were really good.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to a point before that I'd rather people have frozen vegetables and fruits if that's the option, rather than not having it. So you're going to get, they're not bad. Okay, the vegetables don't have that great crispness and flavor. And also remember, whenever you're cooking vegetables, you do lose nutrients. Raw is always a lot better for the nutritional value of everything. In fruits and vegetables, there's a couple of things, if I'm correct, it's tomatoes actually release something when they're cooking, which is a healthier kind of nutritional value, but most vegetables and fruits don't. But yes, I think 100%. You're making smoothies, you're making milkshakes. We've got a freezer of lots of fruits in there as well. There's a lot you can do with it, and that's a much better option than not. So obviously, budget restraints, go that direction. It's going to be still good for you to get that. It's still 100% pure. If you look at that bag of blueberries, it's just blueberries in it. There's nothing added.
If you were to tell me, say I could put five, let's say six herbs and spices that I should have in my cupboard as a general rule, just because I think if I'm starting out, it's quite confusing and a bit overwhelming. So I'm going to walk into my supermarket. I now know I'm going to look for the deal that's the protein deal that's on, be it fish or salmon, whatever it is. That's what we're going to stockpile. I'm going to look for my vegetables. I'm going to look for some some good carbs, which are sweet potato. What other carbs could you, other than rice?
Carrots and parsnips, those are good carbs.
Right.
Butternut squash, acorn
Okay.
squash, those kind of things. I would say have some sesame oil toasted and a low sodium soy. And that way you've kind of always got your Chinese, and you can add that a stir fry, and you've got that element. I would always have garlic and ginger and a really good olive oil. A really good olive oil actually is the finishing touch, an extra virgin olive oil, and you put that on even after you cook your proteins or just on your vegetables, a little bit of rock salt and pepper. It is that good, you know. So you've got your olive oils, got your ginger, got your garlic, got your soy and your sesame. I would then have definitely a curry paste, just because I think you could add that a little bit of coconut milk, and you've got something really interesting in flavors, and something chili, whether that's going to be dried chilies in a jar, and then you've got that heat and that spice and that element that you can make food a little bit different. But when you can, um, when you get some herbs, like maybe it's a cilantro, a basil, tarragon, when you blend that with some olive oil, you keep it in the fridge. It's a herb oil that is just lovely on anything. It really is. So a bit of
So
freshness.
pre make the oil and then keep it stockpiled. How
Yeah, it
long?
will
And
last
can I just ask
weeks.
you? Yeah, I always thought you shouldn't. Should you not heat olive oil up because it's a carcinogenic?
Yeah, you know, it doesn't have a high heat retention, so you never can fry in olive oil. But if you go to Italy, nothing is not used with this. Everything's olive oil. So if you've got a tomato sauce or a bolognese, they don't use, you know, it's all olive oil that's made. You just don't want to bring it to a high heat where you're frying it. But if you're coating the food and you're just using that so it doesn't stick, you know, that's where you kind of have the element using a very little amount. I say oil the food, not the pan, and then you just won't worry about taking it to a heat element that is destroying it. But it's not. It's not going to be. I use olive oil for everything. The olive oil that we were talking about with the herbs, you don't want to cook. You just take a blender, olive oil and herbs, maybe a bit of garlic, and oil is a preserves food, so it can stay in the fridge for weeks. But it's always nice to add that freshness after. And yeah, just an oil. And the other thing is, I'm going to get into my selly telly. Okay, I'm going to sell you a Gotham steel pan. Just get.
I was gonna come on to that. I was gonna come on to that because I literally all my food sticks to the pan, and it's so annoying.
You got to get having the right equipment in the kitchen is really good. So we were talking so much about the ingredients. What's a really important thing to know is method. So get a really good non-stick pan. You want to get a good non-stick pan where you don't really need much oil or any kind of fat whatsoever, but a little bit. That's okay. And then the other thing is always have a big pan or cook in two batches. Because when you cook, say, 4 chicken breasts in a pan that just fits, you create steam and you don't get the searing and you don't get the color, and then it poaches it and you won't get good results. So if you're cooking a steak, always remember to have lots of room around so you get that searing and that color. So method is a big kind of put off if you cook it wrongly. And then the other thing is with a non-stick pan, all of them go through today PFOAs free. You know, they don't have any toxins, but they do destroy the pan if you go over 500 degrees. So you don't want to
Okay.
go over a really high temperature all the time. So if you're really searing that pan will have a life expectancy where not that it's really releasing anything, but it will break the pan down and then it won't be so non-stick.
All your cookbooks, are they on Amazon? Can we get them on Amazon?
Yeah, the I would say pretty much the two in England, the two paleo books. Actually, it was a British publisher. We did it in about 11 languages. So there's two paleo books. There's also Health Eating for Lower Cholesterol, which is actually did in 2004, but they still print that one. And then I did a book recently called the Cannabinoid Cookbook, which was using herbs and spices and certain things that actually in a very subtle way, like how marijuana, your cannabinoid system works, there are certain herbs and vegetables that actually do help in a very light way for stress and sleep, but they actually have a similar way that your endocannabinoid system kind of
Okay.
reacts to those foods. But I worked with a doctor on that. That was fun. And now I'm working on a brand new, exciting one for me because my first cookbook was on Thai food that was very healthy, but it was called Fat Free. It was so old, you know, that's what going back 22 years was with how we used to eat. But I'm
Yeah.
doing a different Thai project, which I'm kind of excited about.
Thank you so much for all your insights. I'm gonna look at getting myself some pans. How easy are they to get in the UK, by the way?
We
Can we
sell them
buy
there
can we buy them
actually.
on Amazon?
Oh yeah, we got them all over, and it's called Gotham Steel, and I've just come up with a concept which is going well here. It's a new rice cooker, and rice cookers again. That's I told you not to eat rice the whole time. There's a lot of other things you
Yeah,
can do in it, but if you are doing it for the family, it always comes out perfect rice. So it's always
yeah.
yeah, it is having some good equipment in the house, but again, it's just making some good decisions with how you cook it as well. But just try not to overachieve. Just do a few things that hopefully break that bubble a little, but don't make it too difficult on yourself.
Yeah, it's that old saying, don't set yourself up to fail, right? And that means either with your diet or, let's not throw ourselves into this and buy massive amount of food in our cupboards and then we're not using it. Start with the basics and start to grow it and layer it on from there, and then find out what it is that your family like and what they don't like and work together. And
Oh,
I think it can be fun. And I'm
and one other
definitely
thing
looking
to
at it.
one other thing to note, which is just a thought as you were talking on that, you know, I really think in today's world, sugar it's the padder, it is in everything, and it really is
Mm,
the enemy of having sugar is not good when it's not natural sugar, when it's not from fruits rather. Um, but the one thing is, look at the back of the pack again, because you know what? There's a lot of brands that we grew up with that just aren't what they are now. They've changed over the years on what they now add to food. So just be a
mhm.
little bit conscious of looking at that. You might buy a tomato sauce that now's got a lot of sugar in it, and you didn't know that
Mm.
because they didn't do it. Orange juice that's now got a lot of added sugar. So just be a bit more aware because there are certain brands we've all grown up with and they're not the same.
A lot of food for thought, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm actually really excited because I forgot about those times where we were spending time at home as families during COVID and enjoying experimenting with food. And, for me, healthy eating, diet, food is huge on my agenda. I'm 50 now. I want to start having a balanced diet. I don't want to be doing any more fad diets. I need something that's sustainable. And what Daniel has really explained to me in terms of going out shopping and then creating these lovely family meals, I don't feel as overwhelmed as I thought I would. He's really made it very simple and easy, and I'm quite excited to share it with my family and go on our journey on having some fun with cooking different meals from different countries. If you have enjoyed this episode, what I'd really love you to do is to, first of all, follow the show. Because if you follow the show and also if you have your downloads, you'll instantly get more episodes each week. So you don't have to search for them. And if you do like the show, it will be really good for you to rate it. And I know that on the different platforms, there's different ways on how to do that. And if anybody does get stuck, they can get in contact with me and I can help them. But, if you do like the show, please follow us, give it a rating, leave us a review, tell us what you think. And if you've got any meal ideas, you can put them in the review so everyone else can read them too. We love to do a midweek episode. So, what I can do is I can start really thinking about our mindsets and the emotional journey that we're all going to go through with this, because it's not just about cooking food, is it? It's about our thought process, our mindset, how we're going to navigate that journey. How are we going to get our families to get involved in the cooking? So, I'm going to be giving you a midweek coaching episode with me and giving you my tips, practices, tools, and help you on your journey. So I will see you next time on Real Women's Stories.